Hey everybody, this is Richard, Uncle Pho. I'm with Jacqueline Simoneau. Hello, thank you for joining this Pho
Hello.
Talks. This is the Pho Talks, and the theme of the Pho Talks today, before Jacqueline can present herself, is we're gonna just slowly talk about traveling for sport. And of course, I have to go through my Pho questions to her, and we're gonna have an interesting talk together. So real quick, present yourself, Jacqueline, to my little audience, and then we'll just continue on with the talk.
Hello, Pho Log followers. So my name is Jacqueline Simoneau, Jackie for short, and I'm a Canadian Olympic artistic swimmer, formerly known as synchronized swimming. And I compete in all the events, so solo, duet, team, and acrobatic routine. I have also recently qualified for the Tokyo Olympics, which will be held this coming summer. Hopefully, we'll keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah.
And I made finals at the Rio 2016 Olympics.
So for some people might be curious, like, how do I know Jacqueline or Jackie? She went to Gwangju for the true athletes. And then I went afterwards for the Master Championships. And I was a bit amazed of how the athlete village or athlete rooms were, let's say, Dexterified. So funny enough, Jacqueline was in the same, but she swam in the same Masters team as I did, but we never swam in the same time, but we're in the same club. And I had to ask her, what's up with these rooms? Why is it all plastified? And she actually confirmed that it's normal. And then through that, we continued chatting, and we swam once together before COVID. That was the funny part, because she had a 200-meter fly test to perform. And what's the time you have to hit?
There's no specific time. My 200 fly time is not the best. Aiming for something around 2:30, depending on what season it is.
Okay, but that's super fast. Like, it's a great average for even master swimmer level. So
I mean, we're not sprinting through it. We're just trying to get through it. We don't have a best technique. I mean, obviously, freestyle is our best style of swimming, and those we could do, on a minute, sometimes under a minute. But fly is still something to work on for us.
And let's just start off with right away, because it's the Pho Talks. I'm Uncle Pho. We got to talk about Pho before anything else. So that's the priority. And you'll see, interesting enough, because we had a talk before about Jackie's experience with Pho. So first question real quick is, have you ever had Pho?
So I'm a terrible person for this, because I have never had Pho before. I have celiac disease, and so I have never had a gluten-free Pho. Never been able to find one. Maybe when I retire, I'll set out on a mission for that. But no, I have never had Pho, so I can't really answer that question properly.
But because I did some research when you told me that beforehand, and traditionally, right, Pho is technically gluten-free. Like, technically, I'll go very broad, technically, but you never know what additives they add into the soup, because they never can guarantee if it's gluten-free, because they're like, well, we might have put something that is gluten, but we don't know, right? So like,
exactly.
So for you, the only method to be gluten-free is to make it yourself. If you ever tried.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's true. Nothing's stopping me from making Pho at home.
Yeah, because I've thought about it, and you can start with an easy soup recipe. It's the Pho Ga version. So it's the chicken version of Pho. And it's super easy, super easy. So you take a pot of water, you can take the whole chicken, you boil it with ginger and onion. You can put how much as you want. If you want very onion feel, put tons of onion. If not, like 1-for-1 ratio. Some people char before the onion and the ginger and beforehand in the stove or on the pan. They put it in, they boil it until maybe 2 hours max, so that the meat becomes tender. You remove the meat. You can keep the carcass to continue boiling it. Then what happened? You taste the broth, and then you simmer it down until it's salty enough for you.
Okay.
And that's the basic Pho Ga stock. Then you buy the noodles that are rice noodles. So it's ban pho. I'm gonna send you everything later on, but I'm gonna explain to you. So ban pho. So it's a like about 5-millimeter thick noodle, and then you take your chicken and you just do it together, and you're done. That's pretty much the basis of Pho Ga.
Oh, that's interesting. I'll definitely have to try that. I do have a question for you, though.
Yeah,
I know some people, it's like tomato. So pho or pho?
So the easiest way for anybody is pho, but it's not pho. It's pho. Okay. So yeah, you got it. So imagine so it's an O with a bit of gusto from your diaphragm, and you add a little and then pho. There you go. If not, keep it simple. Tonkanese soup. That's how you say it. Tacony soup, or in French, soupe tonkinoise. But nobody should critique on you about how you say it. They should just critique about you if you like eating it. That's all. That's how I see it. So because you never eaten pho, what is the favorite pho restaurant of your boyfriend? Because I know your boyfriend loves pho. So where does he go? Where's his go-to restaurant and his go-to pho type?
Okay, I don't know the name of this place. I don't think I'd ever be able to pronounce it. But he works at the Jewish General Hospital. It's on the corner of Côte St. Catherine and I want to say Côte des Neiges.
Oh, Folien?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, I know it. It's near my high school, so I used to go there. So yeah. Yeah.
Really? Yeah. No. He and his coworkers go there all the time, and they say it's great.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's not the best for me because it's not my style how they do it. Because Côte des Neiges is almost not the mecca of pho, but you just go back towards Kent Park. So you go back north down the hill, and you have like tons. It just keeps on piling. He has to go further. He has to go down his he has to go downhill, eat, stomach is full. Then good luck going back up the hill. That's
yeah. No, I think location is more key in this case for them.
Because I don't know if it's still open, the one near the Jewish, but you have to go towards Snowden Metro, but I forgot the name. It's on Victoria and Côte Sainte Catherine. But it's like super sketch. Like you get in, you're like, what is this place? But it's always usually the most sketchiest places are the best places to eat, but it's super sketchy. It's like
there's the Metro Côte Sainte Catherine. So the corner of Côte Sainte Catherine and Victoria.
Yeah.
There's the Metro on one side. There's a condo complex on one side. There's the CHLSD. So there's there is a there's like a little restaurant there with maybe a salon or something next to it.
Yeah, sketchy.
Those are usually the best places.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, and do you know what type of pho he likes to eat?
Oof, I wish I knew. No. Okay.
Because near in Ville Saint Laurent, there used to be a good place, but it closed down. Was Pho Paris on Poirier.
Oh, on Poirier.
Yeah, on Poirier that closed, but the one on Descaries, I think it's Pho Moderne.
Yeah, Pho Moderne. I've been to that one actually with my parents.
Yeah, it's legit.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so yeah, you picked the right spot in Saint Laurent.
Sweet.
Yeah. And so, but let's talk about, you never had pho, fine, I gave you a recipe. What type of, based on the smells you get, what do you expect as a good pho would be based on smelling it? Because you smelled it for sure, right? What are your expectations of a pho?
So
Go ahead.
Something like a little bit salty, where it leaves like a little bit of salt in your mouth, but something that's also savory. So it's kind of like pleasant in your palate.
Okay.
And yet also nutritious. Every time I smell it, it has this type of homey feel to it. The type that chicken noodle soup gives you, but a little bit more different, like with different spices and herbs that just make it that little bit finer edge of type of soup. So that's my expectation of it, I guess, when I smell it.
But have you ever eaten a noodle type soup, like the texture of like noodles and broth?
Of course, yeah. So I make homemade, I guess you could say it's kind of a homemade pho. It's just a chicken-based broth that I make, and with some veggies and either tofu or chicken with some rice noodles. Yeah. And I love that, like rice noodles with some sort of broth. Those are always a go-to, and they're so easy to make too. When
you'll be in Tokyo, you'll be surrounded by ramen food, like ramen soup.
Ramen right? is not, unfortunately. So every time I go to Japan, I stick with like rice and tofu and plain things that wouldn't be able to touch any soy sauce or whatnot. But when I retire, I'm looking forward to venturing out and trying new things.
Nice. Awesome. All right. So we're done with the pho stuff. Do you have any questions about me for pho?
Just one. Okay. So I know you're in Tenerife. I've been there before, and I can't say I was looking out for a Vietnamese place or whatnot, but have you been able to find a go-to pho place?
Okay. So there's 3 restaurants on the whole island and every corner of the triangle. So who don't know, Tenerife, it's like a triangle island. Sorry. Anyways, like this. And each corner has a restaurant. So where I'm in Santa Cruz, so the southern east part of the island, there's a restaurant called Restaurante Vietnam. Simple. Their pho was not good. Pho was not that good. I still ate it. It's still filling, but was not good. They have 2 other soups. So they have hủ tiếu. That's more like a up notch because there's like scales of soup. Like you start with pho, then you jump to hủ tiếu, bún bò Huế, then you just go up, right? Hủ tiếu was terrible. And the next soup I'm going to eat there, I'm supposedly going tomorrow for La Journée d'Épiphanie. I'm going to try their duck soup, and let's hope it's good. If not, I went to Puerto de la Cruz.
Ooh, love duck. That's gotta be good.
I hope usually it's good. Puerto de la Cruz, so right north, they have their pho is not a pho, it's a hutiu. Honestly, it's a hutiu is like pork and seafood-ish type of soup. And it was really good because the chef was a contestant. She's Vietnamese and she was a contestant in MasterChef Chile.
Oh.
Yeah. So it was really good. And then the third restaurant was where you were at, I think at the southern part, near not near Los Gigantes, but was near Los Cristianos and Playas Las Americas. And and the literal translation of that restaurant is grandma's Vietnamese restaurant.
Oh.
But they don't have soup, they have the classic meals. So that will be I'll go there like during a weekend when I want to go to the south. It could be a very Oprah-esque question to you is, when and how did you know that you were ready to become an Olympian? There's a moment in time you're like, yo, I'm ready to eat my first extra large pho, right? That's for me, the Olympics of pho is the biggest bowl.
Honestly, I don't think it came until I was actually at the Olympics, and it might have only hit me midway through my Olympic performances. So I got to compete 3 times in the 3 events, and I think in the second time it really hit. The first time, you're kind of overwhelmed by the Olympic rings and millions and millions of people watching you, and just you're soaking it all up in this experience. And then that second time, you're okay, you're prepared for it, and like, oh, I'm trained for this, I'm ready for this. And you're pumped up and you're ready to go. Not that the first time we didn't perform, we performed very well. But the second time, I'd say that moment really sunk in.
Okay. Knowing that you've competed elite, right? The Olympic is still an elite world level championship, like worlds, right? And worlds every year or every 2 years, depending of the cycle. But how did it hit differently being an Olympian versus, let's say, a world-class level elite athlete?
It's so hard to explain. It's because at the World Championships, the FINA World Championships, you do have that multi-sport aspect where you have, swimming, synchro, diving, water polo, etc. But at the Olympics, you're connected in a multi-sport system. So you have the best of the best, the creme de la creme, all surrounded in one place. And that's what just makes it different. I mean, you get to connect with these people, whether it be in the cafeteria, seeing Usain Bolt or Simone Biles, and you could just sit down with these people and share something in common. And not that you don't have that with World Championships, but this is just on a larger scale, and it really sinks in.
It's like, let's say if I compare to pho, one day, this is what I wished, okay? This is my wish fulfilling of the Olympics of pho, is if I have a restaurant, I would have the Olympic rings of soups. It's like not having extra small soups with every pho. Pho Ga, Pho Ba, Bun Bo Hue, Hutiu, and maybe a fifth one. So it's like samples of pho. For me, that's the Olympics of soup. Like you have every type of soup and you just go at it. That's how I see it. Because sometimes I go to a restaurant, like I want to try all of them, but I cannot eat 2 bowls. It's impossible. Like I need even small, like the small version of the bowl, it's still pretty chunky, but like very sample size. So for me, that's the Olympics of pho or Vietnamese soup. That's my wishful thinking.
That would be so cool. It's like a taste testing menu of pho.
Yeah, exactly. And I hope one day there will be male artistic swimming, because that will be awesome. Then if males can go in mixed artistic swimming, that will be crazy.
There's actually already mixed. So mixed is in the World Championships, and they're working to have mixed teams as well. So they have mixed duets, but not mixed teams yet. So that's hopefully in the works.
Imagine the acrobatics that goes with it, the pushes.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'll go apeshit. Just already seeing just the women's side, just doing like the flips, like how the hell you push without touching the floor that high with so much vaulting and still smiling. That's the smiling part on par. That like still smiling and doing the flips. I'm like, that's for me, I'll be grunting. I'll be like, Because you see divers, they don't smile when they dive. They have that funny face, like we all know the memes. But artistic swimming, there's always a smile, and I'm like,
because that part is judged, right? I mean, if it were up to me, it wouldn't be, but there's an artistic component to it, so that's part of it.
let's go to the next questions for you. So now let's talk about travel, like the typical life sports travel. So what do you pack when you travel for sport?
So many things. So we were having a conversation prior to starting this, and you're just mentioning the equipment that you bring, and we were kind of noticing the differences. I bring some TheraBands, I guess, with me. TheraBands, foam roller, stuff to help me recover, like foam roller, for instance, but then TheraBands for activation, tubing, a yoga mat usually. Then obviously a swim bag, a bunch of swimming suits, bathing caps, goggles, nose clips. If it's a competition, gelatin. That's the stuff that we put in our hair. Lots of stuff to stay warm because, as you know, getting in and out of pools, you kind of get cold. So usually a parka, some leg warmers, lots of towels, and then stuff to train in. So shorts, t-shirts, running shoes, sometimes an extra pair of running shoes, flip-flops, then regular people clothes, and a whole realm of things on top of your Team Canada gear. So that about sums it up.
But how heavy is your luggage?
I tend to pack heavy. Sometimes I'm overweight. 50 pounds is usually what international travel is for a large suitcase, and I'm usually on the cusp of that.
Oh, okay. Me, I'm at 30 kilos, so I'm at 66 pounds. That's the conversion. Yeah. I'm heavy. I'm heavy. Yeah. And you know, in
I mean, to be
Tenerife,
fair, your trip is quite long.
yeah, I'm bringing my house with me almost. So
exactly, you're bringing your whole life with you.
yeah, and in Tenerife, as you know, it's always like this. It's hilly. So just to go to my Airbnb the first time, usually it takes me, if I do the same route, 7 minutes. It took me 30 minutes with the bag.
I believe that. Yeah. When I was there, I was staying on a mountain like this in a banana plantation, and oh boy, it was my large suitcase there. Yeah. I was at the end of a 3.5 week trip, so I had a heavy suitcase at that point.
Okay, we're collecting stuff like the sand or
yeah, all of that with me.
Yeah. And how do you plan for travel, more specifically competition travel? I know maybe Synchro Canada, I don't know how they call it anymore, the federation, but for sure they manage your travels. But how do you participate in planning your travels?
When it comes to training camps and competitions, I'm incredibly fortunate. I don't have to think about it. We have our team manager who's absolutely wonderful, Isabel, and she just plans all the travels, all the logistics, and all we get is an email with an information package, and it's usually a document containing an X number of pages with your hotel, key phone numbers, meals, where you're going to eat, where you're going to stay, and transportation. So I don't have to think about any of that really. I just get an email of where we're going and what we're doing.
So if they plan everything, and I'm betting also they're bringing sports support team.
Yeah, we have an IST team, integrated sports team, and that changes depending on the budget that we have. So you are correct. Sometimes we have a strength and conditioner that comes with us, a physiotherapist, sometimes massage therapist, psychologist, team manager, coaches, etc. But sometimes we don't have the budget for that. So sometimes we do use external physios for us. So for instance, when we're in Japan, sometimes we use some of their physios, or we're lucky to be able to kind of have partnerships with different countries to help us out.
And how do you communicate what you need with those physios? Let's say they don't speak really well good English, like Japanese people in general. Like you just point and you say and that's it.
So one physio that we saw in Japan, he was great. I think he only knew two English words when it came to treating pain and tight. And so I'd point at my quad and go, tight, very tight. And so he'd just be there and massage it. And I mean, they're fantastic physios. They're well trained, well educated, so they could kind of feel and have a good sense of the body, and they know what to look for and see what's not right. So they're fantastic at what they do.
Is it usually the same group of people? Because people tend to have better confidence and better chemistry with their therapist, because you don't need to talk to them anymore. You just say like, yo, my back is wrecked. Okay, I know what to do. And it's over. Like the discussion stops and they just go to town, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, so our team physio, her name was Jacqueline Smith, and she is, I think, one of the best synchronized swimming, artistic swimming physios out there. I mean, she's known me now for 7 to 8 years. She's a specialist in this sport, and all I have to do is just lay on the table and she knows exactly what I need. I see her every day during a training camp and competition, and she's just fantastic. I mean, on top of that, sometimes she's the sole physio there for 12 athletes, and it's a lot for her to manage injuries and prevention, but she is just a gem and fantastic again at what she does. And that's why we keep around the same staff that we have. So Katie Smith, like I mentioned, is a physio to go to. Jennifer Maisonneuve is a massage therapist for us, always a go-to, because these are people that we've identified and we've gone through so many specialists and therapists that, you know what, we pinpoint these guys and we like them and we keep them around because when do you like something, why change it, right? So but I could definitely, I could relate to, you know, the different approaches to treating injuries and whatnot in different styles when different countries that you go to and sometimes different continents. It's different and it's fascinating to see.
And which country that you had a foreign physio or massage therapist, you were like, what is going on?
Oh boy, I guess I was in Russia at the World Championships there, and for some reason I don't know what I was seeing or who was treating me or whatnot, but it was just very strange, a strange approach, a strange type of therapy room. It was just different, and we didn't speak the language, so I didn't understand the full approach. Whereas some people usually try and explain what they do. This was just like, I treat you, and now you swim. Go.
Like next, I got 2,000 of you people coming in. Like next.
Roll in and out.
Yeah, I fully understand. I fully understand. You're cattle, right? You're just I'm done. All right, okay. My next question is, how do you proceed, or what's your process of being a tourist versus an athlete during that time span in that competition, right? Because you come before, you have to prep, then you're done. Are you done? Are you like full on tourist, or there's some way, like when you transition to a tourist?
So for us, we usually don't transition ever into a tourist unless that's when the fun part comes and we get to plan our own trips and take control of our own itinerary. But usually our federation essentially owns us until they release us. So for the Olympic Games, for instance, we arrive in the athletes village after training camp, and we're there. We finish competing, but just because we finish competing doesn't mean that we're off the hook and we're officially a tourist. So usually, typically after the Olympics, after competing, you have a full day of a media car wash. So you have dozens of interviews in the same day, and then the next day you have commitments at the Canada House. You have to speak at X, Y, and Z thing. But after the closing ceremonies, that's when you're kind of free and you could be your typical tourist. So for instance, when I went to Tenerife, that was the year that I finished the World Championships in Budapest that year. And I took some time to travel on my own to Tenerife afterwards, in England and Ireland and Iceland. So that's when the fun part, you could transition into that tourist when you're officially on vacation time.
Okay. And does the federation still say, hey, by the way, just don't do these types of sports, or you're just free? Because I know that say, don't go bungee jumping, right? Because they want to reduce risk, right?
So from my recollection, I think on previous athlete contracts, there have been some mentions of, restrictions to certain things like skiing or whatnot, from my recollection. Now, I don't think we currently have that on our athletes contract, but as an athlete, your body is your main tool. So you want to be able to take care of it, because if you get injured, you're personally responsible for it, and it could be career ending. So you really want to be conscious of what decisions you're making and weigh the pros and cons of the risks. Sometimes it's out of your control. Cycling, for instance, I had a cycling accident this summer, and I was doing that as cross training. I was just cycling about 100 kilometers, and I was in this pont going downhill about 45-ish kilometers an hour, and I made a sharp right turn, but on gravel, and I nearly broke my arm, my elbow, my wrist. So it really could have been nearly career ending, but I was very lucky to come out of it with just some scars and some road rash. But that's about it. So it could happen out of nowhere, even if it's within your cross training, and sometimes it's not even intentional. So
and that would be funny. Imagine you had a road rash right before Japan. How would you hide it?
That would be a little bit challenging, but I think that's why before competition we really focus down on the specific part of our sport. So even then, usually now it's general training, so we spend a lot of time in the gym, weightlifting and running and so not, but and closer to competition, we had a week or two before, we really focus on the specific of the sport. So less gym time and more water time, so that we weigh down our risk of getting injured at that point.
Okay. Hey, by the way, have you received your Olympic swag? Because I see you're wearing Canadian the Bay shirt, but did you receive the new jean jacket and stuff like that already, or?
Of course, so we haven't received that yet, but one of my favorite parts of going to multi-sport games, this is a Pan American Games jacket, by the way, but it's like Christmas. So you arrive at the Olympic Village and you go into this room and you have these little cubbies and cubicles and these changing rooms. And inside these changing rooms, you have a suitcase with your name on it. And inside the suitcase contains your Canada kit. And it's filled with Team Canada clothes, running shoes, hats, and slippers, and everything you could think of. And it's honestly better than any holiday or birthday or Christmas present, because it's just your Olympic gear. And it's such a magical moment when you get to try all that stuff on. So no, I have not had mine yet, but I really look forward to getting it.
Okay, it's really on the spot. Then I bet everybody's taking pictures. Like, look at this, look at that. Let's go, yeah. And what you're gonna wear for opening ceremonies? Oh, I'm thinking I'm gonna wear this, right?
Well, actually, we don't get to pick any of that. There is already a prescribed opening ceremonies kit, closing ceremonies kit, podium kit, media kit. So we don't really get to choose. It's already pre-chosen for us. So, I mean, it's one less thing to think of. Yeah, and sure. Also, we're super fortunate to be able to have a bunch of seamstresses there and extra clothes. If nothing fits, or if we need to be swapping some things in and out, we have that available at our hands too. So Team Canada does an amazing job at doing all that.
Oh, I want to see those behind the scenes, like seamstress, like, those swimmers, goddamn shoulders, like it's always too large. Like they have to buy a large, but they have to like waist it down to a small because they're built like tanks like this.
Yeah, and then you have the 6'10" volleyball players, and nothing really fits. So it's really a balance there.
Oh wow! And I have a last question for you, because the celiac disease, and I know you're an ambassadrice. I don't know how to say in English, ambassador for like celiac. How do you manage nutrition while you travel for sport and for Olympics, especially? It must be complicated.
Usually in the beginning, I'll admit it was a little bit challenging, especially with some communication barriers, not being able to speak the language. But now with the technology, Google Translate, it's a lot easier to be able to communicate my needs. And there's also celiac cards in a bunch of different languages. So usually back in the day when I didn't have access to this technology and smartphones, I'd just print out a piece of paper in the country, in the language of the country that I was going to, and I'd show it to people at the restaurants, and they were able to accommodate me and whatnot. So sometimes it's a challenge, but just being able to know what I can eat is already a good step. And no matter where you go in the world, you could find a piece of fruit, you could find a vegetable and a piece of meat. So worst comes to worst, I get that stuff on my own and I make it myself. So it's not too challenging. I've been very fortunate so far to be able to find people who are understanding and very helpful.
And do you have a strict meal plan for competition?
No, not necessarily, because that really varies depending on the country that we go to. It's really hard to control and moderate. But in countries that our nutritionist sees that there might be some issues, they usually tag along our nutritionist with us. So the nutritionist would come to our world championships. There's always nutritionists there at Olympic Games and multi-sport games. But if there's a specific Japan Open, China Open or something, we bring a nutritionist and they're in the kitchen with the chefs, helping them cook, asking questions, making food and snacks, and making sure that we're well taken care of and well nourished.
Oh, wow. But those
the Japanese team actually brings
no.
Oh, sorry.
The Japanese team actually brings their chef?
They don't bring their well, I'm not quite sure if it's their chef, but they actually bring their own little containers of rice and pre-made little packaged stuff of soup or these rice rolls, and that's essentially what they eat, because their diet, I suppose, changes quite a bit from country to country. So they actually bring most of their own food, what I've noticed from where they go.
Oh, wow. So imagine like they have a suitcase or maybe two full of like food.
Yeah. And I know we've been talking about food recently. So what's your go-to pre-training or post-training recovery meal or snack?
Oh, I know post-training, I'm a vegan protein shake, because I react better because before I tried, right, the whey protein stuff, and it didn't go well. So vegan for sure. If not, I just eat. I like spinach, so spinach goes into it for recovery. Pre-competition, I'm baguette.
Okay.
Baguette
getting
with
the carbs in.
Yeah, carbs, peanut butter, or banana, and that's for triathlon specifically. For swimming, I changed the banana to an apple. I don't know why, it's just me. But that's pre-competition. But for training, I just carb up, protein up, fiber, vitamins. Like yesterday, we went back to the pool finally after 2 weeks of the pools being closed because of COVID. And I pounded down a half chicken, half baguette, and a protein shake in one sitting without hesitating. I just
Amazing.
and I was like, oh my God, I'm eating like if I was like 22 again. But you must be hungry often, right?
Yeah, most of the time. Our head coach is awesome. He allows us to have food on the side of the pool. So I just bring my Tupperware of like veggies and hummus or sometimes fruit. And whenever we go on the side of the pool every hour, 45 minutes, you can just grab a bite while you're in the pool. So it's awesome.
Hey, I hope we meet each other in Japan. That would be crazy.
That would be pretty neat. Yeah.
I don't know. Am I allowed to go into the Canada House? I don't know how they call it there.
If you have a Canadian passport, usually yes. However, with COVID, it might be a little challenging because I know our Olympic experience is going to be really different. I won't be able to go inside the Canada House until I officially exit the Olympic bubble. So it might be a little bit different this time around, but if the Canada House is there, if you have a Canadian passport, usually they'll let you in. Really nice chatting.
Yeah, it was fun. I loved it.
Yeah, it was awesome to reconnect, and it seems like you're doing really well over there.
But keep on training. Keep up the good work. Thanks again.
Take care.